variants of crow pose. So one really big one is wrist mobility. Okay, that is in crow pose, your wrists are taking a lot of weight and they're moving really far forward. They're getting stretched. Okay, that's one. Quick overview. Another component of crow pose is going to be compression, right? You want to be like a tiny little ball. You want to be like this. That's going to involve really active squeezing. It's not just like hanging out, woo, like no, this is like muscular engagement, your legs squeezing into your chest. Your shoulders are doing a lot of work, okay? We don't want to sink down into this kind of just like passive, oh. No, your shoulders want to be strong, they are puffing out, okay? You're pushing in such a way that you can actually feel your bones. Everyone do this together. Extend your arms out in front of you. Push your hands away where they actually move forward. Okay, what are your shoulders doing? That motion, that space that's being created between your shoulder blades, that's what we want in crow pose. Okay, we're really pushing through the floor. Your fingers are working because you're so far over your wrists. A lot of your weight is actually going into your fingers. So this isn't just about flaccidly balancing on top of your bones, on top of your hands. This is active hand engagement. So we've got wrist mobility. We've got compression of the legs into the chest. We've got shoulder strength. And then the last kind of subtle one is going to be actually adduction, so squeezing the legs together, which can be kind of counter if you have been doing crow pose kind of with like wide knees, wide hands, kind of just like balancing your knees on top of your elbows. I mean, that's a great way to practice putting weight on your wrists, but if we really want that nice, tight, tall crow pose, we're going to have to actively think about squeezing our legs together, and that's actually going to keep the knees on to the triceps better than if I just like stop thinking about squeezing my legs and oh, they're sliding, and they're going to fall off. I lied, it wasn't really the last one. There's also a fear aspect. There's a mental aspect, thinking you're going to face palm. Literally, for that one, just take a pillow. Put a pillow in front of you. There you go. You probably won't face plant, even though it's going to feel like it. Maybe you will. Don't sue me. But for comfort, just put something there. Okay, so a couple stretches that you can do for your wrists to work on that wrist mobility aspect, which is going to be useful in literally every single arm balance going forward, besides maybe like pincha, right, forearm stand. Other than that, getting a strong basis of flexible and strong wrists is going to be helpful for all of your arm balancing desires. So, what can we do? Come into a tabletop position. I want you to start really thinking about your hands. Your hands are not just an object that's there. Your hands are an active part of hand balances, which seems obvious, but oftentimes we get so caught up in what our arms are doing, what the rest of our body is doing, and your base is your hands. So take your hands about shoulder distance, a little bit closer than you might think, right? It can be really tempting to have this wide arm stance, and that can feel like it's going to be more supportive, but in the long run, having a little bit closer stance is going to be better. So bring your hands a little bit closer than shoulder distance, maybe just shoulder distance. Dial them out just a tiny bit, not like some wide, crazy, just a gentle like so that your middle finger is pointing towards the upper corners of your mat if you have a mat. Now, from here, just simply practice shifting your weight farther over your wrists. Does that feel like a stretch? Can you go a little farther? What is that like? And then when your weight is shifted over there, push into your fingertips, including your thumb, including the index finger and the index knuckle mount. Imagine you were trying to grab something or make a fist through the floor. Really push hard, including into the inner edges of the hands. Now, that is how you want your hands to feel in arm balances. Now that we're here, I want you to think about your arms. What are they doing? Are they walking out? Are you hyperextending them? Take your elbows, point them out wide, wrap them back so that your elbows tips point towards your legs, and then keep that micro bend and shift your weight forward again. Nice. Now, the shoulder blades. Remember how we pushed away from us and felt our hands go forward, push down into the floor and feel the shoulder blades turn on. Feel that space between them expand just a little bit. Did you lose your weight being shifted forward? If so, shift it again. Keep pushing into the fingertips. This might feel like an arm workout all in its own. I do a lot of arm balancing and it still feels intense on my arms just to practice this correct form. Now, there's more. Take your belly button, pull it in. What is this doing? It's turning on your core. It's creating a strong center. Okay. So you can just hang out here. This is like how you want to engage when you're preparing for crow pose. Now to stretch the wrists, just stretch them. Honestly, it's going to help in all sorts of arm balances, like I said. So you can take your fingertips, point them towards your knees, pedal it out a little bit like a cat. You know how they do that? Maybe take the tops of your hands to the floor, to the mat. Stretch them that way a little bit. Maybe stretch them from side to side, rocking side to side. Now, rewatch that part of the video setting up the whole entire arm and hand structure as many times as it takes you to really have that dialed in all of the components. The hands, the fingers, the arms being micro bent, the shoulders being engaged, the core being engaged. All of that is going to help you in pretty much any arm balance, okay? So really dialing that whole setup is like pretty key. Now for crow pose specifically, like I said, it's really about this compression, okay? This compression of the knees in towards the chest. So stand up, take your right knee and pull it tightly into your chest. See how far you can pull it in without using your hands to help you. Flex the foot. That lets the leg know that it's doing work, basically. If the foot's just flaccid, the whole leg is going to kind of turn off. So flex the foot, pull the knee a little bit tighter. Now you can pull it. Pull it with your hands and then release, see if you can stay there. Keep pulling the belly button in to keep the core engaged. Drop that foot down, try the other leg. Pull it in as tight as you can. Keep the core engaged, keep the foot flexed, and then pull it in however tight you can pull it with the assistance of your hands. See if you can keep it there. If you need, this isn't like about balancing, so if you want a chair or a wall, that's completely fine. Okay. Come back down to the floor. Come into like a little ball on your toes. Squeeze your legs together. Squeeze your thighs and your knees together. Reach your arms out in front of you. Squeeze your knees into your chest tighter. Place your hands at the same distance that we talked about before, dialed out a little bit. Come up high higher onto your tippy toes. And then shift your weight forward. Bring your knees as high up on your arms as you can, right above the triceps. The closer to the armpits, the better. And then shift your weight forward over your fingertips, over your wrists. Maybe you lift one toe. Maybe you lift the other toe. Maybe you just stay with one or none, but just feel what it feels like to have that weight on your triceps and on your wrists. This is a lot on your wrists. Go back to the wrist exercises and try those some more. Now, if you do have both feet lifted, think about squeezing your knees in toward one another, adducting the legs. Keep pushing hard into the fingertips. Keep pushing strongly into the shoulders. Keep pulling the belly button in. That's how you do crow pose.